Well, hello.
Hey there.
Welcome back to another episode of Blue Collar Philosophy. I am back to my zone because I like interviewing people. And not, I mean, I do like ranting in my car sometimes, but you need to get out there, right? So, right now, I am joined by my friend Robert Slavens. Robert, why don't you just introduce yourself briefly and share some of the things that you're involved in that people might be interested in?
Sure. I'm Robert Slavens. I'm just a 30-year-old college student living in Crestview, Florida. Me and a few friends from school have a civil engagement group that we created so that we can start trying to get a little bit more involved in local politics. My leader actually goes to city hall meetings and tries to follow a lot of the local laws and ordinances that get passed. We're trying to figure out exactly what everyone in city hall does. It's funny because a lot of that stuff's not even listed. I mean, there's a vague general explanation on government websites, but the specific details of what the people in the city of Crestview do are nowhere to be found. So,
Not to be a conspiracy theorist, but this was actually happening in New Jersey. They had a ton of admin on the payroll, and nobody knew who they were.
yep,
And there was like hundreds of them. I'm
we're
not saying
fortunate.
that's going on, but that's a little bit weird.
We're fortunate we don't have that yet, but I will say, with the approval of the 2020 budget, um, we're in the millions of dollars being budgeted, and it's very interesting to see that the mayor gets paid 5 times less than the new city manager that just got approved. Um, it's I don't know. It's odd. I just want to kind of parse it all out and ask questions. It's fun to even get into.
Okay, so what's the name of it? Like, if people are interested in this stuff, what's the name of your page?
Yeah,
Where can we find it?
it's the free. Sorry, it's the gosh darn it. Hold on.
All right.
It's the Free Thought Association. We have a Facebook page. Ron Nation is the group leader, but it's me, Ron Nation, and Matthew Picard. I'm the only one that's non-military that's in the group, but we have fun.
Cool. So, me and Robert, we worked together. Well, I guess you would say work together. I was working at it with his dad at this company, and he rode along with me for 3 days, and we just thought each other were cool. I am a theist, as if you follow the channel, you know. Robert is an atheist. So I thought we would do the icebreaker questions and then kind of launch into the topic, which I kind of already forgot. No, I remember. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What will your apology be when you meet God?
I'd have to meet God first. I don't have an apology
Okay.
prepared.
Okay. Have you always been a bad person, or is this just a recent thing for you?
Oh, always. Every day, all the time. I pretty much just kick puppies all the time.
I thought so. Okay, so this is kind of semi-serious question. Who's what's the most famous? What's a famous atheist that you dislike the most?
Richard Dawkins. Over the
Really?
years, I appreciate some of the symbolism that he uses, but he also comes across as a giant butthead. I feel like what he has the knowledge of is the sciences, but maybe not interpersonal communication skills.
Well, that I heard his rebuttal of Aquinas's five proofs, and it like he totally butchered like almost all the arguments. Like, and it I don't think that he has this like he has the ability probably, but that's just not his skill set. So you try to start going into the realm of politics in like philosophy and theology, like, but you're not really taking it seriously. You're just going to make yourself look dumb.
Right.
And it's like, well, on the experts, like, well, not on that, buddy. You know, um, I think mine's Bill Nye. I,
Really?
I, yeah, it's like he has an engineering degree. He did a show, and he just goes around and it's like, oh, it's Bill Nye. He says fuck, and it's like, what? Like, it's and it seems like he just wants people to take his picture all the time.
Maybe. I
Like,
mean, I know him and Neil deGrasse Tyson
Neil
work at the
deGrasse
Hayden
Tyson,
Planetarium.
I generally like him. He's a little pedantic, but I like him. He's likable. I don't find Bill Nye likable at all. So no, I don't wish ill towards the guy. It just
I didn't
doesn't
think
do
you'd
it for
wish
me.
ill towards him from that. I just thought you didn't like him.
Yeah. So going into the actual topic. So me and Robert had been talking about going back and forth. I always let my guests pick the topic, and the topic come up of morality as it relates to atheism and theism. And my initial thoughts, and I don't know if you see it this way, I think it's really a question of objectivity and subjectivity when it comes to morality.
I mean, I guess it depends on the situation. I think there are some things that we could all agree are objectively moral. And then I think there's a lot of situations that would just be a case by case basis. It really depends on what we're talking about. I know that killing is wrong, murdering is wrong, but when it's in self-defense, it depends on the situation. You know, if
Right.
you could have stopped a person without actually having to kill them, was it the more moral thing to do to kill them, or should you have held off, or does it matter because you were scared and you were just defending yourself? So is that even the question to be asking?
Right. Well, I guess just my question, why are those things objective? Are they truly objective, or are they objective to us in a useful way to get along?
I would say they're objective in the realm of survival. We need to treat others the way that we want to be treated, and in order to create a society and to have the security of the many and be able to improve our station, we need to act within the realm of civilization. We need to be able to not murder, not steal, not treat others in a way that we don't want to be treated.
Right, but you realize for the vast expanse of human history that it's not been that thought process at all. Like,
I would
I
disagree.
don't think people, huh?
I would disagree.
You think that people value human life like the way we do?
I feel like people want others to feel like they value human life. I feel like we've had a lot of systems of governance for the last few thousand years that were based on trying to keep the peace, keep things less vile. Maybe not in every situation, but I do feel like as the years have gone on, we've gotten a lot better at being moral.
I think we're gravitating back towards old things, to be quite honest, because I think Nietzsche saw it. He was an atheist. He didn't believe in God. That wasn't really the question for him. It was like, how are you going to secularize your whole society without replacing it with something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it left this vacuum. And then what happened? The mass murders of the 20th centuries, right? And each of those cases, they had a logical reason for doing it. That's not the question. Logic isn't the question. It's an imbalance,
mm-hmm.
right? You need objectivity and subjectivity. You need art with science. Like, you have to have that marriage of heaven and earth, as I would put it. But, for you, with just being grounded, feeling like you got your feet on the ground, but still living as you got imagination and hopes, right? And I think when we're talking about morality, right, it can exist in both realms. It can exist
Sure.
for survival, but it can also exist for, even if this is just a thought and an image in my head, and that's all that it is, it's something to reach for.
Yeah. I respect the captains from Star Trek. They kind of raised me a little bit. And those are the heroes I kind of look towards, And I could see a lot of the different moral and philosophical questions that were posed to them and their imaginary adventures. And I feel like those were anecdotes trying to show what the human condition was, you know? Like,
Right. Well, something I wanted to ask, and it's a genuine question,
sure.
because I've heard some of these scientists should suggest things that seem kind of like they almost begrudgingly don't want to even acknowledge God or the possibility of God. So somebody said that the universe is generated with an immaterial supercomputer.
I've heard something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holographic
Okay.
image pushed over something.
Right. Or yeah, some kind of sentient immaterial consciousness. All right. That's what a scientist said. And then when the theist was like, he did this, and he's like, no, not God. No, not God. And it's like, okay, man, what you're suggesting is exactly what all ancient religions thought about, not gods, but the Most High, this like source.
Sure.
That's what they all thought.
They were getting into semantics in that conversation, it sounds like.
Yeah. So,
I
but for you,
Mhm.
you don't see it that way. But how is your worldview? How do you feel that the physical universe, I would think, like has its own explanatory power?
I guess that's a hard question to answer because I don't have the answers. What I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
start with is defining atheism as purely and only one thing is the lack of a belief in a deity or deities,
Mm-hmm.
God or gods of any kind. So we can accept things outside that. I mean, it's not, and if I was presented with evidence that a God existed, I could reevaluate my stance based on that. But not having been provided that evidence, I've got to kind of I got to pick up like what I think sounds the most logical until I finish and get my degree and actually have a hold on it. Um, I don't have any true understanding of how the universe operates on a larger scale, not in any way that would make sense to somebody that believes they have a more theistic understanding. Does that make
Right.
sense? I don't want to claim to have knowledge of something I don't.
All right. Yeah, claiming, when you say claiming, I think that gets more towards fundamentalism, which is just annoying altogether.
Sure,
But
I
we're
didn't
talking
mean
about
anything by it.
reason.
I just don't want to
Yeah,
be that
but
guy.
we're talking about like I can understand what you're saying. I happen to like just logically for myself flow another way.
Sure.
But when he's like hear you say if I see evidence for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I understand what you're saying, and it's valid, and it doesn't matter to you about I wouldn't say it doesn't matter to you, but it doesn't convince you this person experienced, right?
Sure.
And it doesn't, and it's been that way throughout human history.
Yeah.
Um, However, you want empiricism, so you want to see evidence as empirical evidence where it's repeated and measured and testable, blah 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 blah, right?
Sure.
But can you really predict like another sentient being, another human being?
If it existed on a level above us, probably not. I
No,
don't
no,
think
no,
it
no.
would.
Humans.
Oh, well,
Like, can you even do that with humans?
to some degree, but I mean, I see what you're getting at. Probably not, especially if you have no knowledge of that person.
Right. So what I'm saying is science is good, like it like for microscopic levels. Like we can have like a great level of certainty that this is how it works. Little minor things might change, but we're pretty certain this is how it works.
Sure.
And then sometimes it blows up and resets, right?
Oh yeah,
But
yeah. We're
you
not the
have that
center of the
infinite
universe
power.
anymore.
But then you also have your own personal experience. And when you have your own personal experience, there's really nothing anybody can say. And it doesn't matter if they can never feel it or if you can never repeat it. You know what you experienced. And to me, it just logically follows like seeing human history and seeing even as secularism has risen, it's been replaced with this almost religious vigor in politics. There's still that religious impulse. There's still that striving for that transcendent ideal type of thing. People are still reaching for that. And even yourself, like I hear you speak, I know you're not religious. I know you don't believe in God, but the way you talk is very similar in a good way. Like you're really trying, you're really wanting to make things better. So I'm probably talking too long.
You're fine.
Yeah.
You're trying to lay out the points as they are.
Yeah. It's just, I think even if it's a mind hack and nothing more of the brain, just acknowledging the idea of the existence of your own ideals is a very healthy thing to do.
I can agree.
Yeah.
You have to have some idea of who you are with or without religion or anything else so that
Mm-hmm.
you can really have an understanding of everything else. If you don't know who you are, then everything else around you kind of falls out of focus.
Yeah. And the fastest way to do that, honestly, is just listen to yourself. Don't talk yourself out of stuff that you know, and don't let people talk you out of stuff that you know.
I
To not
found
doubt yourself.
we all do it. I feel like we all try to talk ourselves into the answers we want to hear.
Do you think that's the case?
Sometimes, yeah. Confirmation bias is a huge thing. I feel like as humans, we try to look for patterns and we try to look for.
Oh, I'm talking about some. I'm not talking about like your mind. I'm talking about your gut. Like your mind is crazy down. It can think of a whole bunch of different ways. But like,
Sure.
yeah, but like
You get that gut instinct, and then your mind starts
yeah,
going,
like
trying to
some,
figure
I
out
don't know
ways to
why
make that
this
work.
isn't a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes somebody will say a little bit of information, and you're like, I know what happened.
Right.
You know, it's weird.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
we have an innate
Listen to
morality in some ways, not all the time, but I feel like the way we're raised and the way that society kind of pushes us to exist together creates some form of innate morality, even if we don't necessarily hold those values as important to us. We know that those values are important to society as a whole, so that when we see those morals broken or the different ethical walls breached, we know that there's a breach because we've been taught in the past what wrong was and what right was.
Yeah.
So I feel like we don't need anything other than ourselves to see that. I don't feel like any kind of outside force, like a spiritual outside force, would be required. I feel like that's a combination of genetics and upbringing. There's a part of you that knows attacking others is wrong unless it's self-defense, because we're naturally animals that want to communicate and form societal groups for protection.
Okay, well, what do you make of consciousness then?
Honestly, I don't know. That's one of the things I've been interested in since Star Trek, where they talk about, if you teleport yourself, are you teleporting a copy of yourself with a new consciousness, or are you moving your consciousness from one body to the next? And in either situation, are you the same person? And I know that is super nerdy.
Well, I mean, there are people who try to argue that consciousness is an illusion.
I feel like if somebody cloned me right now, I would be a different person than that clone. I would say that I'm an individual, even in the event somebody cloned me. Like maybe there is some level of conscious thought that only exists in my mind. And then if I transferred to some form of hard drive or another, body, like altered carbon, something like that, I wouldn't be the same being.
Well, okay, so my thing is we can actually observe our thoughts and make judgment calls on them.
Okay.
And and sometimes we do it in the snap. We already know.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Like the fact that I can actually view my own thoughts, like visually. Like what is I'm looking at the thoughts. They're like soliciting like emotions. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody can deny it except people that say consciousness is an illusion. And so,
Yeah, I can't
do
agree
you
that it's an
believe
illusion.
you believe it's a phenomenon, but material in origin? Like, do you
Oh,
even
yeah.
acknowledge metaphysical stuff?
I've not seen any direct evidence. I've heard a lot of stories, especially from you or other people that I trust, that I know they believe. I know you believe some of the different instances you've explained to me. I've never been personally involved in any metaphysical experience that made or broke my understanding of the universe. I
Okay.
can't say without evidence that I believe or don't believe in any of that.
Okay. But it's just more pertaining to consciousness, like itself. Like, you, like, would you be like, okay, yeah, there are some metaphysical things they interact in the physical world, but they're not material. It's energetic. But you like, I try to say this to my atheist friends. I'm like, look, this doesn't actually even require for you to be a theist at all,
Sure.
right? But it's things like, okay, like if I ask you if love is real, like you already know,
Yeah.
you say it before, yeah, right? What is that? And it drives us, right? We do what we love, right? So even as a concept, right, floating in ether, right? It's real. It might as well be real. Like I'm spending so much energy on it. Like what really like matters, right? So even if it's just a mental, like um, like a mental hack or something, like it still means something,
Sure. Thinking about that kind
right?
of stuff is important. And you can be an atheist and still be spiritual. That's why I explain that definition of atheism. Just because somebody doesn't believe in a deist doesn't mean that they can't believe that the metaphysical exists or that there's things beyond our current understanding in science that are happening all around us. Maybe even that consciousness is something higher that we can't understand, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the ancients believed that there was a cosmic consciousness. It was a singularity,
Mhm.
right? So it's the best way to understand it is a dot, an infinite small space, and it's shot pieces of itself off while staying connected to it. That's how they kind of explain the origins of the universe.
Everything I ever talk about kind of wraps back up into my nerdy sci-fi world. Final
Yeah,
Fantasy VII is kind of the same thing, where materia is being mined. Basically, that the Earth and the universe are kind of all one being, almost as though we're cells inside some larger being.
right. Well, I think some people go too far with it. So I do believe God, like I do believe in God, and I do think that he's what the ancients described as like cosmic consciousness. It's sentient, it's
Sure.
singular, like. And but I argue, like some people say, well, the self is an illusion or something like that. We're all one. It's like, yes, there's a sense that we're all one, but you know, the energy flowing one way, right? And you're a beautiful, you know, bit of that, right? But you have real distinction, but you come direct from source. So I mean, that's how I kind of see us. Like we have real distinction, have real self, but yes, we are one as well. It's duality.
Sure.
It's
Uh,
duality, but it's actually one whole thing, not two separate things.
Even being an atheist, I could agree that I feel like the universe is being held together by a force of some sort. I'm not going to say a god or anything like that, but like 0 point energy, if it at exactly 0 degrees Kelvin, when all matter stops, atoms still move.
Well,
There is some
so
innate
here's the
energy
interesting
in the
thing.
universe.
The ancient understanding of God is that he had no parts. He was fully actualized, right?
Mhm.
There's no potentiality in him because he was fully actualized. And when that enters the physical realm, it polarizes into matter and energy. And there's this space created that's kind of like what you would call chaos, but it's really potentiality and the energy and the matter to play around with it.
I could see that as a better explanation than a lot of the things I've heard.
Well, yeah, I mean, because a lot of the explanations of God that I heard growing up, and it really didn't bother me for a long time, was I knew he wasn't a man in the sky, but that was like a good enough picture, right?
Right.
And then you get older, and I got a little bit more serious about my faith, and I'd run into internet atheists, and they would say Sky Daddy and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it's this in the Sky Daddy. Wait a minute, what is he? And like it became like a really bad question for me. Like the atheists were like, well, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? And I'm like, what do I say? And and then people would hand you books. Hey, this is where dinosaurs are in the Bible. And it's like, just no, get that out of here. I don't care. Like what? It was a whole ground shaking thing for me. Like, wait a minute, I'm putting all this energy into him. Like, what is he? Like, he can't be like a thing. Like that wouldn't make sense.
A lot of people would be very mad just to hear you say that in my experience, but I'm happy that you are open-minded.
Well, okay, so like a video, I've used this example before, a video game. Like if I wanted to know the creator of a video game, I wouldn't point to the character in the video game and say, oh, he created it. That wouldn't make sense. I mean, the creator can create an avatar for himself, and I think that's what I'm talking about.
I used that exact illustration the other day with somebody I was on a date with. I literally stole that story from you with your explanation of, I absolutely borrowed that from you.
Yeah, but you would know, okay, this has some sort of thing I can't see right now. Like this is obviously right. And that can sound like intelligent design, but it's not. It's like, I think one of the examples somebody gave, if you walked in the middle of the woods and then like a round metal floating spirit appeared before you and then disappeared, you would intuitively know like that has an explanation. You wouldn't just say, oh, that was weird, and then go on.
No, we're curious by nature.
Right. I think for like a good thing. I think you need to hold a balance of holding morality, like ancient things from the past, but also having this free play to actually test these things out and like learn for yourself. And not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Keep the things that are good and build upon that. That's actually all that we have. That's really the only beef I have, I think, with atheists, well, not atheists, but the celebrity atheists. I don't think they appreciate like how much where they stand is because of the knowledge of ancient people. I remember this one guy, I forgot who he was, but he described the Bible as a book written by illiterate nomads. I'm like, how do illiterate people write?
Good question.
What are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, you don't go after religion, but like if that's something you're gonna do, okay, I'd have thick skin, but take it seriously at least. That's the only thing.
We do. What I can say is you've got to take into account that and I'm not trying to sound like a victim because I'm not, but we're an extremely small margin of the population across the world. And more often than not, the traditional religious groups believe our ideology or lack thereof is harmful in a way that would make me a potential target, not just for being yelled at, but when I was in high school, me and my best friend, James Woodrow, who was also secular, received death threats at the high school. People were extremely unhappy with us. I had a Methodist tell me that when the end times came, I was going to go to hell, the fire and brimstone. And then her pastor came out and said, that's the Baptist belief structure. That's not currently ours, you're giving this guy crap, and you're not really bringing him closer to the Lord. What have you done today except for look like a butthead? You know,
Right.
I- we are constantly feeling like we're not part of the larger group because we don't have the same community that churches offer. I don't feel like I walk around Crestview seeing other people and going, I'm part of the same religious community with all of these people. In fact, I often feel completely apart and like I don't want to discuss it because I'll be immediately boxed in. And I feel like years of that will make people, sardonic and tend to make those quips that don't necessarily seem like they're taking it seriously, but that's just their way of mentally, I
Well,
guess, fighting back.
I've actually had the same experience. It's been a little bit weird because, like, I'm more convinced than ever in my beliefs, but I haven't found like a place I can actually attend comfortably. Like, I found some place, that I kind of like recently, and then the quarantine happened. So,
Well, you are a unique
um,
individual. You are extremely open-minded when it comes to things. I feel like you are definitely not going to be boxed into anything you don't want to be boxed into.
well, something I thought about the other day, and I'm not bad mouthing churches. There's a lot of good people in churches, like, but I hear some of these pastors sometimes, or some people egg on pastors. It'd be like, you need to preach against sin. You need to preach against sin. Um, and it's like, look, you can go that route. It's been tried. Um, you can do it, and then everybody does it in secret anyway. At least the same percentage of normal population, you know?
Especially some of the people that pretend to be the most religious seem to every once in a while come out as having something they do on the side that they didn't want people to know about. We've had different senators and members of House like come out, like Anthony Weiner texting people when he wasn't supposed to, and he definitely hid behind the faux morality. You can preach against sin all you want, but I always thought you just had to have a personal relationship with Jesus and an understanding of who you were as a person, and those two things were the only necessities, not necessarily the
I
hating on others for their choices. I'm
well, I
interested in your
thought,
view. Sorry.
oh no, it's fine. Um, I think it comes from a place like a fear. I mean, it's not bad to speak out against like things that are wrong, right? It isn't. Um, I just feel like when it's targeted, and then it gets nasty, or it's like a minority. It's not always minority, but it's like, you know, they're not going to, like, if the adultery rate's high, they're probably not going to do sermons about adultery. You don't think? Probably
Uh,
not.
Probably no.
But especially if they're aware of what, like what's going on. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, if there's a problem, actually, maybe you need to touch base on that, right?
Sure.
But I think everybody's pretty well aware that that's not cool. Like, if you don't want to be married, don't be married. But if you're married, like, do it. I think that's reasonable. Like, if you enter a mutual agreement. I don't know. And then open marriages are a thing now. I mean, it kind of blows my mind, but it's a thing it works for some people.
I
But
guess so. I've met a few people, and
I
I've never seen it pan out quite well. I know there are people out there that have an okay experience with it, but I've never in my life met people that ended up being super okay at the end of it. I don't know.
yeah. Well, okay. So people know that stuff's wrong, right? And they wouldn't be showing up to your church if they didn't feel like something was wrong, right?
I don't
So
feel
what
like
they
it's
need
wrong.
to, huh?
I don't feel like an open marriage is wrong. It's not for me. That's all I meant. I wasn't trying to say that that was an immoral
Oh, no, no,
action.
no. I'm just saying people are drawn to the faith, whatever it is, because in their being, they feel like that they're drawn to it at a certain point in time because they feel like it's truth, right? So like, why do you don't need to make them feel like crap because they're seeking. It's like somebody's like, hey, can I talk to you? Your shoes are untied. Put a comb through it,
Yeah.
Like if people are calming, give them some good news. I mean, I think it is God's not intimidated by that shit.
Right. An omnipotent being that has already written the laws for how things go is not going to be intimidated by one person not following the rules.
See, that's the thing. It's not laws. It's you can actually study in the Bible. So the wrath of God in the Bible is actually strange. So he'll say to Israel, like, if you don't turn from your wicked ways, I will send my fiery darts against you, blah blah blah. And then when it actually happened, it was just a neighboring nation that were acting just the same, right? His wrath was like, okay, you don't want to listen to me, here you go. See how that works out. It's consequential. Like he's letting you learn, right?
Yes. I don't know, man.
The prodigal son is actually a story about the wrath of God. So
Okay. Yeah, that story.
Yeah, so the prodigal son in that culture, he basically says, I wish you were dead. Give me your money right now. And then he goes and blows it on hookers and blow like back in the ancient times. But he squanders it all. And then he's a Jewish man and he's working around pigs and he wants to eat the pig's food. So he's just like rock bottom. And he says, man, like even my dad's servants live better than this. Maybe I can go and ask him if I can work for him. Right.
Right.
And then so he returns and the father is looking. So he sees him on the horizon. And then he does something shameful for a Jewish man, and he runs and he hugs and kisses his son and like fully restores him and puts a ring on him. Like that's actually a story about the wrath of God and actually how it plays out.
Well, the father was happy the son was back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people are showing up to your church, it's good news for like the both of you. So like
preach
like
positivity instead of the negativity.
Well, all this stuff is happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this mess up stuff in our life is happening. Let's be honest about it then. But can you actually create a space where people feel like they can be honest about it? Because that's the only way it's going to get better, I think. I mean, if something's bothering you and you ignore it, like you're resisting something, you're hurting yourself, you're causing yourself pain, right?
And we've seen that happen a lot where people will be committing sins or doing things they don't feel they should be doing, and they tend to hide it away from the community so that they're not perceived differently.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have an open door policy.
You see the universal things like lying. Someone just continues kind of gradually lying, and all of a sudden nobody trusts them. It's like, yeah, don't believe them. Blah, blah, blah. Like that's things that people will say as soon as you leave. That person's a liar.
My grandmother was 84 when she passed, and I lived with her after Grandpa died and made sure she was okay. She stopped going to church because of the back talk. She was all about Jesus. She loved God. She talked to me about it constantly. But she just could not bring herself to participate in organized religion simply because she felt the majority of the people in those institutions were acting for their own social benefit and not for the benefit of their souls or anything positive. And that was my religious 84-year-old grandmother. She'd had very bad experiences in Texas and in Missouri where she felt like she was part of I don't know exactly how she put it, but it seemed like she was part of a play she had to do every week. and it wasn't for her personal growth. It was for the growth of her image.
Hmm.
I feel like you can relate to it a little bit with some of the different stuff you've told me in the past.
Yeah, well, my dad's a pastor, so he had expectations of that, and I just wanted to be a normal kid. But I'm actually thankful for the experience because I think it shaped me in a way that later in life I could be more compassionate to people because I did feel alienated, especially middle school through high school. So, and it's not till my 30s that I started feeling like I kind of knew who I was and was more than okay with it. So, yeah.
It's a hard thing to come to terms with at all. I still always question who I am, Um, I feel like I'm a moral person because I feel like I know what right and wrong is based on the way I was raised, based on the way people perceive me, you know. And that's really all I have.
You know what?
Mm.
So, this is how you get a glimpse of who you are, right? Is there something that you're proud of for yourself?
In what way?
Is there a memory you have that you're proud of, that the way you acted or what you did, like you're proud of that?
I'm sure there is. I wasn't ready for a specific example, to be quite honest.
Oh, it's
Now that
okay.
no, I should have actually. I was more ready to talk in generalities, and now that you're asking, um, I don't even have a specific one, man. Honest to God. um,
Yeah.
I know
Well,
what you're
look,
talking about.
yeah. When you find that memory, whenever you do, it's there. They're there. You may not like haven't thought about them in a while, but they're there. But look, so take that memory and how you're looking at yourself, and that's who you are,
Sure.
right? You have a shadow side too, but that's also who you are. Like you're both.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah, but what you are is very, very good.
I appreciate that.
And well, yeah, I mean, you know it.
Well, do you feel like atheists can be moral? Back to the initial question.
Well,
Like,
yeah, because you're moral. I am going to convert you eventually, but yeah, you're moral. It's
do you
not
feel like it's
required.
moral to constantly try to convert people? I know you do.
No, I don't. Um, Actually, my passion is just I want to get people to listen to themselves. And as far as religion, I think I can be like at least a bridge between um, atheism and theism to at least like foster like peace. It's like, look, we're not a bunch, we're not all dumb or stereotypical dumb, and I don't like that stereotype that they're dumb.
All right.
They're normal people. I met them all my life. I was surrounded by church people, right? Um, but yeah, I want to be a bridge. It's between the two. I don't know. I feel like I have some close atheist friends, and the way I talk to them, they appreciate like I'm being sensible and charitable to them too.
Yes. When
Because
you haven't
I've thought
experienced it
about,
a lot.
huh?
So when you haven't experienced it a lot in your life, you can realize how important it is to have somebody treat you that way.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And all you need is the idea or the ideal,
Sure.
something that you really like to grab onto. And I think even if you're an atheist and a staunch materialist, you can just admit it's like, hey, you know, it's a bunch of stories, but it provided something for society that was useful.
I don't disregard the allegorical content, and I just feel like in the
Yeah,
books there are a lot of different stories that make me feel like maybe the morality of this being and mine do not line up. You know,
yeah. I can get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I actually have a much different view on violence. I was a strict pacifist for a bit, but I'm not anymore. Like, just weird. Like, I just saw, well, no, self-defense isn't immoral. It's not. Like, you can choose to give that up. If you want to sacrifice yourself or be a martyr, that's your choice.
You do have to
But,
work against instinct pretty hard.
well, yeah, if the occasion calls for it, right? But doesn't mean you always have to be a martyr. It's probably very few instances that you will have to be a martyr. But
Hopefully only one, because you
we're
can't be a
right.
martyr more than once.
But it's like I wasn't really thinking. It's like if somebody comes after my kids, it's over.
Oh yeah, you'll kill them
So,
in a horrible way.
no, I didn't say that. I would if I had a gun, I would shoot them in the knee. I'd get them clean towels, call the cops, put on
See,
some coffee or something.
you're a better man than me.
I'm joking. I don't know. I don't get angry. It's very hard for me to get angry.
Sure.
And when I get angry, I don't like it at all. I'm like, ugh.
But it's your kids, and it's subjective to the exact situation that they're placed in.
Oh no. I would leap into action. I'm just saying I don't like feeding into anger, I guess.
That's good.
Anyway, this interview has gone really, I think it's been fun, strange. Talked about some topics I did not expect to talk about at all, but I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You got any closing thoughts? Always leave my guests with some closing thoughts.
Sure. All atheists are not the same because we don't have that same community that you do. We're all individuals, and we just want to be people. So if you have a chance to be kind and have good, open discussions with people that believe differently than you, please take the time to do that and not be mean. It's very important that for peace and for us to like move together as a culture, to be polite to those that you disagree with, even if it's very strongly.
Right. And just to back up what Robert said, I know like he's an actually good dude. He does not like unsweet tea. So like he's good people. Right?
I hope so.
I mean, people that like unsweet tea are animals.
I don't really drink sweet tea either, man. I'm a coffee guy.
But you don't like that. So I'm trying to pump you up. Anyway. All right. So
thanks for having me on,
right,
man. I appreciate it.
Huh?
I said, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate you.
We are totally botching in. It's okay. That's character. All right. Thanks for tuning in.